Next month, we're going back to live with my parents. My husband Ben told his sister-in-law Holly. To our surprise, she seemed really happy about it. But when moving day came, I got a ton of calls. After unpacking, I found out that Holly had given out the wrong address. I didn't get to hear the full story and felt really upset. My name's Jane, I'm 35, just an ordinary office worker. I live with my husband Ben and our fourth grade child. We both work hard to make ends meet and have a happy family life. Everything was going smoothly. Then Holly came to visit. At first, she said she just wanted to hang out, so we welcomed her warmly. But she started showing up unannounced every few days, acting more and more arrogant each time. Holly knew when I finished work and would time her visits accordingly, making herself at home and helping herself to our food and drinks. It got so bad that she even started eating our kids' snacks. I tried talking to her about it, but she wouldn't listen. Instead, she'd get mad and impossible to deal with. Lately, she's been coming over every single day, and Ben and I are worried sick about how to make her stop. Hey, you didn't get anything today, even though you knew I was coming. I felt like sighing at her behavior. I didn't buy anything. If you want to eat, you can get it yourself, I replied calmly. But as soon as I said that, Holly started yelling loudly. Don't mess with me. I'm a guest. You should treat me. And this is your house, right? It's only fair for you to pay for everything, she shouted aggressively, thinking it would make me give in. She was really selfish and difficult to deal with. Holly, we didn't get a call before you came. Isn't it common courtesy to let us know beforehand if you want to visit as a guest? I said, noticing Holly's shoulders tense up, causing her to spill her tea. How dare you? You're my sister-in-law. Is this how you treat family? I'll make sure everyone hears about this, she retorted angrily, despite being the one causing the inconvenience. Reflecting back, I remembered how different she was before. When I first met her at my in-laws' house, she and her husband Ken were so welcoming. They made me feel at ease, which helped me bond with my in-laws and eventually marry Ben. But now she seemed like a completely different person. When I tried to ask her if something had happened with her in-laws, she refused to talk about it. At first, I tried to be supportive, but as her unannounced visits and rude behavior continued, I grew frustrated. My attempts to distance myself only seemed to escalate her actions further. I need a drink. Go buy it? Now, Holly ordered me while I was busy cooking, almost pushing me out the door as if she wanted me gone. She threw my bag, which was in the living room, outside. Despite feeling frustrated and wanting to refuse, I grabbed my bag. But Holly blocked the doorway, refusing to let me back in until I got what she wanted. Please stop this. My husband will be home soon, and our child will be back from their friend's house, I pleaded, but Holly remained unmoved. I don't care. If you stop complaining and go now, you'll be back in time, she said firmly, blocking the entrance like a stubborn gatekeeper. Realizing arguing would be futile and only waste time, I reluctantly headed to the nearby supermarket to buy the alcohol Holly demanded. When I got back home, my kids had returned, and I found my sister-in-law, Holly, making my child clean up the tea she had spilled, acting all high and mighty. I quickly went to my child and shot a stern look at Holly. Please, don't do this again. You spilled the tea, so you need to clean it up, I firmly told her. But instead of acknowledging her mistake, Holly just started drinking the wine she had taken from me, saying, "It's your fault for being so slow." I told my child to take their things to their room and rushed through the rest of the cleaning. As I cooked, my frustration grew, and I couldn't help but wonder if there was any way to put a stop to Holly's unacceptable behavior. I talked to my husband, Ben, about Holly's behavior, and he was just as upset as I was, especially about what she did to our child. He said he'd call his brother right away to address the situation, but when he tried, he returned with a frown, saying the call wouldn't go through. We both looked at his phone, puzzled, wondering what could be causing the issue. Feeling disgusted by Holly's actions, we had been wanting to visit my in-laws, but finding a suitable day amidst our busy schedules was proving difficult. Despite our worries, we decided to plan a visit for next month and left it at that. The following day, I mentioned to Holly that we were planning to visit my in-laws, but she didn't seem interested in the details and strongly objected to our decision for some reason. Holly's yelling only added to our confusion. Why was she so adamant about us not going to my in-laws' house? As I pondered over this, I received more troubling news the next day. My mom called to inform me that my dad had fallen down the stairs and been injured, needing caregiving. Although it wasn't serious, my parents were clearly distressed. I offered to go home immediately, but my mom insisted that I prioritize my children and not worry about them. Both of my parents are over 65, still working senior jobs despite being retired to support themselves. With my dad now needing care, it would put extra strain on my mom, juggling caregiving and work. Their lives would undoubtedly be affected. I couldn't help but wonder what I could do to help them. With a heavy heart, I finished work for the day and headed home. That evening, Holly showed up at our house as usual after the kids got back from school, expecting dinner to be ready. It was a routine thing for her. I glanced at Holly with a bit of resentment. I had hoped to talk to Ben about my parents that night, but with Holly around, it seemed challenging. Could we skip dinner tonight? I bought a cake, I suggested, offering her the cake instead. Holly frowned and shot me a glare. What do you mean? You expect me to just eat cake? That's absurd. We have our own issues too. I'm sorry, but could you just take this and go home? I asked, hoping she'd understand. Reluctantly, Holly eyed the cake. I tried telling her, you don't have to eat it if you don't want to, but she ignored me and ended up eating it anyway before heading back home. After discussing with Ben, who had just returned home, we realized we couldn't afford to fully support my parents every month, but we still wanted to help. Ben suggested doing more overtime, but I didn't want to overburden him either. That's when we had a brilliant idea to solve both the issue with my brother's wife and my parents' situation. Ben agreed, and we immediately got to work. While Ben started packing our things, I called my parents, and he dialed Holly's number. We're moving back to my parents' place next month. We won't be around when you visit, Ben told her over the phone. Holly seemed thrilled at the news. Well, I should start getting ready too, she replied casually before hanging up. We were left wondering what she meant by that. Oh well, never mind, we shrugged and ended the call. On moving day, as we began unpacking at my parents' house, we were bombarded with frantic calls from Holly. I quickly answered, trying to calm her down. When she finally composed herself, she blurted out, "Your new place is..." I was puzzled and interrupted her, saying, "Wait, it's my parents' home. We're moving back here, remember?" There was a sharp intake of breath from Holly on the other end of the line. "Parents' home?" "Ben mentioned it, so I thought you were moving here," she exclaimed, catching me off guard. I turned to Ben, who was playing with our child nearby, and asked if he had clarified that it was my parents' home. Before I could finish explaining, the call abruptly ended. "Anyway, it's not a big deal, right? You also said..." "Well, never mind," Holly retorted, signaling the misunderstanding. "I'm sorry, Holly, but we didn't move to your parents' home. We've already finished moving," Ben tried to clarify, but Holly had already hung up on me while I was explaining. Frustrated, she started blaming me for the confusion. When I asked about her plans, Holly revealed something surprising. "I thought you'd unload all the tedious house chores onto us when you moved in," she said, leaving me speechless. Ignoring her condescending tone, I explained why we made the decision to move. "Your frequent visits were becoming overwhelming, Holly." Around the same time, my mom informed me that my dad had been injured and needed care. When Ben and I discussed it, we thought moving back to my parents' home would help keep you at bay and allow us to assist my mom. Holly's response was simply a threatening "huh." My parents' home is conveniently located near our child's school and close to our workplaces, so the move went smoothly, like hitting two targets with one shot. We had planned to explain this to Holly, but she abruptly ended the call, so we didn't feel responsible for the misunderstanding. "Come and move here immediately," Holly demanded, her voice rising, but I firmly declined. While living with Holly's family didn't sound bad, I couldn't bear the thought of being taken advantage of. Plus, my parents are going through a tough time right now. Despite my explanation, Holly refused to accept it. So, you won't listen to me? Suddenly, we heard Ben's brother's voice on the line. Holly gasped and stepped back. Is everything okay, Holly? I inquired, concerned. Holly pleaded urgently, please, just come over now. What's wrong? Hurry up. I wondered why my sister-in-law was so frantic. Holly's urgency left me speechless, and then she abruptly ended the call. After hanging up, I filled Ben in on my sister-in-law's urgent plea, and he grunted in response. Guess we better check it out, he said, offering to drive. Amidst the chaos of just having moved and dealing with various tasks, I quickly arranged for my parents to watch the kids while we visited my in-laws. Luckily, they were both home and agreed to help out, allowing Ben and me to go together. Upon reaching my in-laws' house, I rushed into the living room. There, I found Holly looking dejected, while my mother-in-law and brother-in-law appeared furious. They offered us tea and explained the situation as soon as they saw us. Holly ran away from home after we confronted her about her reckless spending. We've been trying to reach her, but she's been avoiding us, my brother-in-law explained, shooting a glare at Holly. I was stunned to hear this revelation. I hadn't realized Holly had left home. Ben shared my disbelief, giving Holly a questioning look. Apparently, Holly had even dipped into my savings. I had been trying to contact her to retrieve my money, but she had been unreachable. Today, she had suddenly returned home. Hearing about our move-in plans, they assumed it was a misunderstanding. Surprised? I instinctively shook my head. Then Holly, who had been quiet until now, spoke up defiantly. Mom, it's your fault for interfering in my life. I spent the money to ease your stress. It's not a big deal. She slammed her fist on the table, her face flushed. But neither my mother-in-law nor brother-in-law backed down. Stop making excuses. You quit your job suddenly and expected us to do all the housework and cooking. How can you claim to be stressed? Exactly. You spend all the money we earn on designer bags. It's unacceptable. They both raised their voices angrily, their faces red. Holly, showing no remorse, simply looked away, not taking the situation seriously. We had no clue about the turmoil brewing in my in-laws' home. My brother-in-law's voice rose sharply. Enough is enough. Are you also causing trouble for my younger brother? If you're so unhappy, let's just get divorced. Stay out of our lives. Holly's face drained of color, panic evident in her eyes. Wait. Why does it have to come to that? I was just trying to take care of you two, she pleaded. Ben and I exchanged a sigh. It was us who took care of you. You came over every day, ate and drank whatever you wanted from our home, even had dinner without contributing or lifting a finger to help. I interjected, earning a sharp glare from my brother-in-law. That's because it's your house. I'm a guest, so why should I pay? Holly spoke selfishly, leaving us speechless. My determined brother-in-law retrieved divorce papers. I've had enough, Holly. Sign these and leave. Stay away from this house and my younger brothers. Holly was taken aback by his resolve. And you need to repay Mom's savings in full. We'll settle it through a lawyer. Holly's shock was palpable, her face paling. I wonder how much she spent, I mused, noting her reaction. I don't have that kind of money, Jane. Both you and Ben are working, right? You must have some spare. Holly, flustered, turned to me for assistance. I shook my head, meeting her gaze. We simply can't afford it. We have our parents' healthcare expenses, our children's support payments, and our own living costs to consider. You'll have to find a solution on your own. I explained firmly, and finally, Holly accepted the reality and gave up. Following her brother-in-law's ultimatum, Holly was obligated to fully reimburse her mother-in-law's money. She enlisted a lawyer and had the arrangement officially documented to ensure accountability. Her brother-in-law informed us of this development and offered another apology, saying, "I'm sorry for getting you involved." We felt a sense of relief knowing that our concerns had been addressed. Interestingly, it appears that all the food and drink consumed by Holly at our house was also included in the mother-in-law's claim. While full repayment might be challenging due to the lack of detailed records, some restitution may be possible. My husband and I express our gratitude to my brother-in-law. It turns out that Holly had borrowed money to cover her expenses during her absence and is now struggling with that debt as well. Meanwhile, I've been dedicating my time to assisting my mom at my parents' home. With Holly no longer a source of concern, most of my stress has dissipated. Moving forward, I'm committed to working diligently to safeguard my cherished parents and family.